And the data point is that about 64% of people will stay with an organization if they feel that their efforts are regularly recognized. You combine that percentage with 94% of younger employees choosing upskilling over paid benefits, and also increasing 5x the performance of the team by just telling them, explaining to them how their contributions matter. It's win-win. It doesn't cost anything to do this. Hi, I'm Mike Targos. I'm the founder of Center Desk Leadership Coaching. I'm a retired Marine. We're going to talk today about encouragement and establishing that one-on-one connection with your people. Your encouragement is your personal investment in people. But do you see it that way? A lot of times we get caught up in that criticizing or critiquing what people are doing is the only way to keep the bar high, to keep a high standard. And we fool ourselves into thinking that that's a good way to encourage people. It doesn't encourage people. It does point out some specifics. You might criticize some aspect like a written document or something like that or a presentation, but a savvy leader knows that every time I do that, I have to be looking for an opportunity to patch that person back up. And it doesn't need to be right away, but you do need to have that in the back of your mind and come back to that. You want a balanced approach to people like that. And everybody's a little bit different, so you got to have a little bit different approach. And that's different than being fair. You do want to be fair. You want to have a standard of treatment, but you have to figure out how to communicate with everybody in a little bit different manner. Some people like that direct critique, and some people really have a hard time with it. So you got to develop a sense on how to deliver that message. But don't overlook the requirement to encourage people. Something as small as, I think you could be a manager someday, or I think you'd be a senior leader in this organization. Here's some things that I'd say study on in the coming years. That's encouragement. That tells people you're thinking about them and their future. That tells people you believe in them. It's very powerful. You have to do it. Empathy is not a nice to have quality for a leader. We have to see things through the eyes of others, to include ourselves. The way I always used to think about it was, you gotta try to think about why people come to work. Even in the military, where you think it might be everybody's the same, it wasn't. There it was, why did the guy join the Marine Corps? Why does this person come to work every day? Is this a career that they want to go as long as they can with this company? Do they want to advance in this company? Or is this just a job for them? And that's fine. A lot of people just want a job, support themselves, and do other things. Nothing wrong with that. But you need to know what that is. And the only way you do it is you try to see the world through their eyes with the goal of delivering a message and treating them in a way that gets the most out of them and makes them feel best about what they're doing in their place of work. Contrast this with leaders who just want to do things their way because they're a leader, or just that's the way they were brought up, or that's the way they feel about it. That's a big one too. You got to realize that people don't see the world the same way you and I do. One Gallup study shows that about a third of the workforce are what we would call actively engaged at work, meaning they have a good degree of initiative. They're probably what you would envision as the ideal employee, or maybe what you really think you have in your team. Opposite of that are about 16% who are what we would call actively disengaged, meaning they don't care. They're not working to achieve the goals. In fact, they may be working against them. And that leaves about 50%, or about half the workforce, are what we would call engaged. And that's like just doing their job. So you have to ask yourself as a leader, how am I reaching that 50%, that half of the workforce, or half my team? Let's just assume it's your team. About half of them are just doing what's needed. How do I get those 50% up into what we would call actively engaged? Dealing with that 16%, that's just another story. Your role in your team's success. While you are an important person in the team, you have to have an outlook on the team that they can do the job without you. Now, they need you. They need you to lead the organization, they need you to communicate the goals, and they need support from you. But if you, as a leader, see yourself as a key worker doing the tasks that your team is assigned to do, and you see that as your contribution, it's not. They should be able to do what the group needs to get done with you in support, you in the lead, but not actively working alongside them. Sometimes that's needed. You got to show your people that you're not afraid to do some of that work. But too many managers, inexperienced leaders, they think that their main contribution is to be in there shoulder to shoulder, just doing the daily work with their people. And what the people really need is you looking out for them and looking around the corner and see what's coming next. The other aspect of that is we can tend to overestimate our personal impact. A good leader knows that a leader has a big impact, but better to focus down and develop your people, encourage them to have them do the good work. What does encouragement really look like in the workplace? Probably the simplest way to encourage somebody is just to go tell them that you think they're doing a good job. But the key is you want to be specific. Two things are worse than a very generic thank you, or you send an email to everybody. Definitely don't do it as a group, but even if you send something to individuals, because you don't want to do like cut and paste, same message goes out to everybody. A little thought into it, show your appreciation, include specifics, and be sincere. Don't congratulate somebody if they didn't do a good job. You can't encourage somebody even if they fell short or you feel like they gave it a good shot and just didn't get there. In fact, that's really important. Maybe your company has a formal system where you can recognize people or award points or little awards. If you have this system, you got to use it. A lot of these systems, you can get some pretty neat stuff out to people, but the key thing is that their colleagues can see that they accomplished something and they're being recognized. And nobody's going to ask you to do this for them, but you got to know as a leader, even if somebody's really shy, everybody likes hearing that they did a good job and they do want their colleagues to know about it as well. But if you don't have a system like that, personal one-on-one visit, a written email, a handwritten note card is kind of an old school, but a really nice touch you can do. Get a box of note cards, blank ones, and write somebody a note. Include some personal details in there or something they did. They'll keep that forever. And it doesn't cost you anything, but they will appreciate your time that you took to write it. Another way to encourage people is to suggest ways that they can improve themselves with your support. Upskilling is huge. I think it's up to close to 90% of younger employees would stay in a job over a pay raise or paid benefits if they could get better skills. And even if this is something that you can't provide at the moment, if you can't send somebody to a training course, they want to hear from you that you think they can do it. Or if they're not thinking about something, you put that idea in their head, they're going to remember you said that and they're going to think about it. And I would say probably more times than not, they're going to end up going that way. But the key thing is you're showing people that you're thinking about them, and that's always appreciated. So, do you walk around encouraging people, or how do you do this? It's a good practice to schedule time to do this. Now, you can put it on your calendar, but if you set aside 30 minutes to thank people, recognize people, write up your written recognitions, you can cover a lot of ground. And I think that's probably a good way to do it is to schedule that time and just make sure you put your head down and do it. People keep track of how much they are not recognized. Maybe think of it that way. And then this might be a little uncomfortable for you, especially if you're a new leader or maybe you're introverted, but there's nothing wrong with getting people together maybe in the lunchroom or the hallway or something like that, just real quick and point out a big win for somebody. Or the easy way to picture this is like if it's somebody's birthday, you should celebrate birthdays and just make sure if you're going to celebrate birthdays, make sure you get everybody's. But you want to point out even just some things that would maybe be considered small accomplishments to the group because it's going to make that person feel good. But probably more important than that is the rest of the group sees you doing that. They know they got a chance to be recognized like that. And you start to really convince people sincerely that you care about them and you're going to be looking out for them. And you really are not totally about yourself. If you notice, you may have worked for people who they drive the team. You love that word, driving people and driving results. And a lot of times these people leave you with the impression that they don't care about you at all. And recognition is one way to reverse that. The easiest way to increase your productivity by 5x, and this is substantiated in a Gallup poll, is you ensure that people understand what the organization is supposed to do and how well they are progressing at achieving those goals. And if you really want to get to the 5x improvement, if you really want to see an uptick in what people are doing and what the team's achieving, is you're going to point that out to each person individually. And you're going to tell them in your one on ones, or maybe you're going to even make it part of your performance plan. But you want to make sure that they understand how their personal contributions are helping the team. And a lot of you watching this, and I know I've known several people in this. I've been pretty lucky not to be in an organization that just totally disregards communicating with people. People come to work every day, they have no idea how well the team is doing. They just sit in their cube. Maybe they have a little bit of human contact, but they really have no idea how well the team is doing. And it's just so sad. And people don't stay in those jobs. But if you want to have an instant impact, again, this Gallup poll shows it. People can be 5 times more productive when they know how their personal contributions are helping the team achieve their goals. Why specifically they matter. And probably the best forum to do this, to really connect with somebody, is in a one-on-one. And you want that person to initiate the topic. Ideally, maybe you can kind of lead them there or tell them that's what you want to talk about. But then you want to talk with them about what their contributions specifically are doing for the group. Now, a lot of new managers have difficulties with one on ones. They're not comfortable. And I can say from my personal experience is what you do is you get wrapped up in some of the negatives that you think you need to talk to your people about, maybe some of the things they need to improve specifically, or you just aren't quite there. And you start to wrap your head around that and anticipate you anticipate an argument, and you never really get there. But if you're new to management in particular, or if you just struggle with one on ones, start with whatever your people want to talk about. Focus on the positive. There's nothing wrong with that. And you can even do that for a few sessions. I think a good frequency for one on ones, minimum monthly, every 2 weeks is good, 30 minutes or maybe even less, but just touching base, see what's on their mind. And as you do that more and more, you're going to get more comfortable with bringing up a little bit more G or critique type comments. A great book to read to study more about this and maybe get some techniques is Crucial Conversations. Crucial Conversations talks about starting with the heart. And the idea is that you can say just about anything you want to somebody if they believe that the reason you're saying it is in their best interest. And where people screw this up is they dive right into all the things that somebody could be doing better instead of first establishing that you care about them. And here's the things that I'm seeing, good and bad, and let's get there together and improving them. And the data point is that about 64% of people will stay with an organization if they feel that their efforts are regularly recognized. This is from a Society of Human Resources Management report. You combine that percentage with 94% of younger employees choosing upskilling over paid benefits, and also increasing 5x the performance of the team by just telling them, explaining to them how their contributions matter. It's win-win. It doesn't cost anything to do this. And consider the fact that your competition, these other organizations, have managers that aren't doing any of this. That's your competition. How much better you can be if you focus on encouraging people and recognizing their accomplishments and talking about the future. An Owl Lab report says that in a hybrid environment, on the average, people are 27% happier when given that opportunity. Of note, not all hybrid environments are the same. Some are managed well and some are unmanaged or managed poorly. But the reason we need to pay attention to hybrid workers is that if you have a combination, if you're in office, you can tend to spend your time with the in-office workers, and you really got to make sure to get yourself out there to make contact with the people that are remote. One of the drawbacks of a hybrid environment is you can get a us versus them mentality. The office people look down on the remote people and maybe vice versa. But you, as a leader, if you have a hybrid team or you have elements of both in office and remote, you have to make sure there should be no difference in the way you treat people. So if somebody's remote, their camera's on, they're participating in meetings, they're on time, they have predictable work hours, they have an expectation set by you, and all the things regarding encouragement, if you never see them face to face, they still apply. You have to find ways to encourage your remote workers very similar to the way you do in office. And again, I think that's by first seeing as the leader that there's no difference. They're not there, but by virtue of the fact that they got their camera on, you can see them. You have to endeavor to treat them the same as much as you can. Diverse and inclusive environments. Whether or not you have a political opinion on the matter, one Deloitte study shows that diverse and inclusive environments are up to 6 times more productive than those that are not. And again, whether or not you have an opinion on the matter, there's no reason ever to exclude anybody. You got to ask yourself why you would do that in the first place. But you also have to, when we talk about empathy, you have to look at yourself through the eyes of your people. And it's important to them, particularly your younger employees. Very important. And even though you might have an opinion otherwise, they're not expecting that from you. They're expecting their leaders to be fair, balanced, to have good integrity, to treat people the same, fairness. And whether or not you have a diverse or inclusive environment, they're seeing that as a reflection on you and your abilities. And you always have to act in a way that benefits the entire group. And that's it. Encouragement, feedback, connecting one on one with your people, irreplaceable. Some data points in here that I think will open your eyes and show you how important it is to have that personal connection. And it starts with encouragement. Get used to telling people about the good things that they're doing. Don't assume that by not saying anything, they assume that you think they're doing a good job. Bad assumption. Crucial Conversations, read that. That's a good read for new managers, for any managers, really. But that will give you some ideas on why it's not so scary to have that one on one connection. But encouragement is so important. The little things matter as long as they're sincere. Hope you enjoyed. If you think there's any way I can help you or your organization, maybe work with your new managers, give me a shout. My information's in the profile. Thanks.